Welcome, everyone, to the first episode of the Not So Alpha Males podcast, brought to you by your hosts, me, Tom.
And me, Toby.
So, yeah, we decided to put this together. We want to essentially just talk about things we're interested in, really, and put it on the internet. Not that that's not an original idea or anything, but
just hope that other people are interested in it as well, which may not be the case, but we'll find out.
We'll have a lot of these kind of chats between ourselves, but we thought, you know what, why not share it with the world? So here we are. So the kind of gist, I think, of what we're going to go for is technology and science and that kind of thing, because, I mean, we both have our background in that, right?
Yeah, I guess it's going to develop over time.
Yeah.
See where it takes us. I don't know. This is just the first episode. It's going to be flexible. It's going to be
keeping it relaxed.
Yeah, very relaxed.
So anyway, we decided we've got a way. We're going to come with a couple of topics each week, hopefully, and basically discuss them and see what the other person thinks, really, and try and get some kind of in-depth discussion going, you know? Maybe a bit serious, maybe
some
a bit
deep.
not, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll just go really deep every lesson, get people questioning their lives and stuff.
Yeah, but for the sake of that, we brought ourselves some cocktails that we're going to drink throughout, aren't we?
So, yeah, that's the other exciting little bit. We're just going to get slowly hammered as the show goes on. So what are you drinking this week then?
Because of the icy conditions outside, I've decided to go for a Pimm's. I feel like everyone needs that taste of summer right now because it's extremely depressing outside. So I've got some frozen berries in there. I've got a nice frozen strawberry. Got the Pimm's lemonade. It's all there.
I mean, you guys can't see this, but it actually looks like he's bought it from a nice cocktail bar on a Spanish beach. Like, he's really gone all out for this.
I'd pay €10 for that.
This is
€10.
This is the kind of commitment we are having to this podcast already. We are going all out. So,
and it's only 4:00 in the afternoon, and we're on the cocktails already. So,
there you go.
Yeah, we'll see what we get to by the evening.
And I've gone for a drink I've never had before. I thought, you know what, I'm going to take the opportunities on these podcasts to just drink all the drinks I would never really drink normally. So I've got Sex on the Beach. And it's good. It's very good.
Very good.
I mean, I love cranberry, so I knew I was going to like it, but it's good.
I'm shocked that you've never had it.
I know.
It's disgusting. That's
you don't like
the
it?
Go-to. No, I'm saying it's disgusting that you've never had it. How old are you, for everyone listening?
I'm 24 years old.
24, and you've never had.
I'm 25 this year, and man, that feels old.
It sounds old, to be honest. I'm 24, but
I was going to say, like, I'm just not that much older than you. Anyway, so moving on from that, how about we just get into this, really? This week, actually, it's a bit boring now how I'm going to sound it, but I'm bringing a book to the table, okay? But I really
just to let the listeners know, we're not going to be reading books. So, this isn't a sign of things
I don't know.
Come.
I mean, every week I might read a new book and bring it to here. It'd be like a reading corner.
I'm out. Podcast.
You know what? I just wanted to sound smart and literate.
They'll find out that you're not over time, though. So.
I know, but I've got to at least try it from the start. Otherwise, they'll know it's a whole charade now. Anyway, a book. It's called Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. And honestly, it's not like a storybook. I want to plug this book, honestly. Like, I think everyone listening should go buy it. The one person listening, go buy it. It's great. And it's all about outliers in society and how men and women who do things out of the ordinary and how they got there. So it's based on a lot of sociology studies and things like that. I'm going to talk to you through a couple of chapters that I really loved, and I want you to reflect on your upbringing, because it's all about child and the development
you're not
and becoming ordinary. Yeah, actually, I'm getting deep for the first one.
My dad hit me. Okay. No, we shouldn't joke. We can. It's a relaxed podcast, you know.
Right. Well, that's half the listeners gone. I hope one's still around. But yeah, so it's all about not raising children, but what some people might do with children. That sounds so fucking wrong. It's about raising children and then becoming the people like, your LeBron Jameses, your Bill Gates, those kind of people, how they got there from the start. So it actually starts off with this Canadian psychologist, and I'm going to name drop again. His name's Roger Barnsley, and he started off. He was actually sat at a Canadian ice hockey match, very stereotypical, and was looking through the player list playing that on that day and noticed the birth dates of all the players were, I think for this exact game he mentions in the book, were all in the first half of the year. So every single one, there was nothing later than June, and about 40% of them were in January and February. So being the psychologist he was like starting to figure out, why is it that these pro players, everyone's born in the months of January and February? And so he starts trying to think of scenarios and why this might be the case. And essentially, I'll cut all the chapter out and get you guys to the actual results. But it comes down to the cutoff date for the player selection, right back when the players are like 4 and 5 years old. And so every year you have the season, and then the cutoff date for like the young kids being taken forth to like these camps and hockey camps and to get all this extra training and whatnot is January 1st. So he then started following all these young players growing up and things like that, and noticed that, say you have a kid born on January 2nd, when the end of that year comes and the scouts are out looking through all December, because the cutoff date's January 1st. When you've got all these kids growing up, if you've got someone on the 2nd of January born, they could be, for someone compared to in June, they're going to be 6 months older. Compared to someone in October time, they're going to be 10 months older. And at 4 and 5 years old, there's no real difference in talent and like the natural born talent that we always talk about when you think of like athletes like, LeBron James, it's just God's gift and things like that. But these kids who have just had these extra few months of development, maturity, physical maturity, so they might have slightly better hand-eye coordinations, are the ones that then get picked. And it gets into this idea of this accumulative advantage, which is an idea where you get spotted at a very young age and you're decided that you are talented compared to people who are less talented. And at that age, the only thing really defining you is your age. Like that's the only like emotional maturity and physical maturity. It's just when you're born is a big indicator of if you can make it being a professional sports person. And so these kids that get selected just because they were born, 5 months early, 6 months earlier than the rest of their peers in their age group, they then go on to receive that little bit of better training. So compared to someone who's like just at normal school, who might play it for fun and plays, a couple of hours a week in a small school team, someone who's on this like fast track of like their parents pushing it and they're going to all these camps and things is getting 6 hours a week. And then the book starts going into like the 10,000 hour rule. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
Yeah.
Where apparently it's roughly 10,000 hours to become a master of some sort of thing. Anyway, so what starts off as like this tiny little small difference, basically due to age, with all the accumulative advantage that a kid then gets with the more hours, the more training, better training, things like that, they then become these world-class athletes, in this case, the ice hockey players that we all see and go, oh, I can't do something like that. But I just thought it was actually really interesting that, we always think of people being talented and not talented at some things, like people are better at maths and not better at maths. But I think a lot of the cases, it can all come down to like how you were treated when you were really, really young on that thing. Like you might have been slightly more encouraged in maths. And so the book actually goes into the other areas where this is largely seen. And one of the biggest ones is education. And, here in the UK, our education system cut off September the 1st for like the new year. And you'll see if someone's born in August, which means they're going to be very, very young for their year, you'll see their parents will go, maybe I'll hold them back and actually put them in the year above. So they're very, very old because of that disadvantage they'll have just because they weren't born 10 months earlier compared to someone else, but they get compared with that person. So, do you not think that's... I was profounded by this.
I think it's quite interesting. So it's basically, if you're born January, February, when you're like 4 or 5, you're going to be slightly more coordinated than others and things like that, because you've had that extra 6 months.
Had 6 months of playing around more, so your hand-eye coordination is just going to be a bit better. You've been alive
because of
for
that,
a bit longer.
Because of that, you then get fast-tracked through other things, which then causes you to then get better and better.
More and more ahead of the other peers that don't get the same treatment.
This is like a curve, and one of them gets further away from the other one as it goes.
Yeah, so we all start out the kind of basics.
But do you think that's true though?
Like,
because some people are naturally gifted.
Well, this is what the book argues, that we aren't. And it's just what we are like at these really young ages. We just get a bit more push. And that's what but it is true. I don't know where I come down it, because obviously genetics plays a part, and obviously like loads of factors, like, you know, your family situation. If your parents can take you to all the practices and actually support you in that side of things, like the financial side of things, like obviously it's not just obviously if you're not born in January, don't bother becoming a professional, trying to become a professional athlete, but it's
just have more of a chance.
Yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that of the people who pursue it and go all the way, it's because of this tiny little advantage, which has nothing to do with their natural talent, so to speak. It's just because they were alive for another 6 months. And, you know, when you're at that age, like growing wise, like you could be significantly bigger and taller than someone who's 10 months younger than you.
So what you're basically saying is, because I was born in September, that's why I failed at all the sports I played in. Is that what you're telling me?
Well,
because I take heart in that.
I'm sorry.
Maybe I'm not bad. It's just
I
was at disadvantage.
You just weren't picked at that early stage. But like, well, September then, that means that you are the perfect candidate academically, because you're right at the end of the school year. So your brain was that bit much more developed than, say, me, because I was born in June. So
here's my certificate, Tom.
Toby is currently holding up his Masters of Engineering certificate. So yeah, not that he's showing off or anything.
And when were you born?
June.
So that puts you on the other side.
Really young. Yeah, so I'm done basically. But it was obviously there's lots of other things as well. But in the education bit of the book, especially, it was all about that we shouldn't really test kids at such a young age because of this difference. Like this difference doesn't start, like the maturity differences don't start to like level out until you're about 12 years old or 10 years old, I think it was.
Yeah, but then puberty comes into it, and then everyone is completely different. Like, I remember playing football when I was like 15. Well, not 15, probably like 14. And there were some guys who are bigger than me now at 24.
Oh yeah,
and I was like a little rake.
Side of things and all sorts. Like, yeah, I was typically very small for my age, but I was also very young for my year as well. So there is that. But like the sense that you could be in preschool, or no, not preschool, like let's say primary school, when you start learning maths, and this is another idea. This of what is it called? The accumulative advantage idea, and like the compound success. When you're in that sort of first maths class and they start grading you and figuring out where you are, you know, we all know this, that everyone goes into like top set maths or top set English and then bottom set maths, bottom set English, things like that. And the top set maths, they will typically be given the better teachers. They will be typically given much more harder maths to actually solve and get pushed more and more. And so what starts out as like, oh, someone might be just a little bit better, you know, a couple more marks in that initial test. By the time you get to the end of A-levels, when they're 18 years old, one person is like absolutely loves maths, and then you have all these people who are like, oh, I just can't do maths and things like that. And I think I think that is just a really big thing. And to be honest, it was making me reflect, if I ever had kids, one, I'm going to plan when they're born, the month. One, I want to plan exactly when that guy's going to be born. And two, offset all this other thing about, you know, like pushing them equally in all kinds of things.
So you'd go for probably March time, you'd be going every night. just to ensure.
Just to try and ensure that, and then no sex for the rest of the year. Yeah. Because if it's not conceived in March, then don't bother, basically. You're not going to get a footballer child or something. No. But I just think it's something I've never thought about before, you know. It then moves on from sort of that side of things and like the environment to how kids themselves are raised. And so I'm going to name drop another sociologist who did all this study, and that's Anita.
Find them all in the description.
Yeah, we will. No, we'll try and tag them as well. Anita Laurio. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I really do. Yeah. I think I've probably fucked that up. I'm so sorry because, you know, she's incredibly smart by the looks of the work she's done. But Anita Laurio, yeah, that's the closest I'm going to get. Anyway, so she was looking at how kids are raised and how that determines if they then become super successful people and things like that. And so I'll give you some of the background details of the study that she did. So it was 12 families. So this is American based. So, you know, some of it, I feel like some of it, when I was reading it, actually is applicable to the UK and other places and how people raise children and things. But she studied 12 families, half from very wealthy backgrounds and then half very, very poor. What she went into it thinking is that, okay, I'm studying 12 different families. I should get sort of 12 different parenting techniques and parenting styles. But what she found was there was only two parenting, let's call them philosophies. There was only two parenting philosophies ever discovered in this trial. And they were divided exactly along the class lines of these two groups. So the wealthy families would raise their children in one way, and the poorer families would raise their children another way. And what was amazing was the differences of these two styles and what that led into later in life when they actually became, 18 plus and going out into the world and things like that. So starting with the wealthier parents, I mean, obviously it's all stereotypes and all generalized. It's only 12 families, so we could start talking about sample sizes. Like, I don't want people out there to start thinking, oh my God, if I'm wealthy, my kids could be like this. If I'm poor, my kids could be like this. So I don't want to try and put that out there. It's a good thought experiment. So wealthier parents typically are more heavily involved in their children's free time. And I mean, so in sense of after school, they'll be shuttled to, say, football practice, choirs, like they have all these extracurricular activities that they do, and the parents are very heavily involved in them, and they'll like shuttle them from one to the other, and they're just generally more involved in their non-academic life. And then,
why do you think that is?
Well, I think because it's based on the wealth difference. It's because typically if you're in a poorer family, they're probably working more, like say 2 jobs or something like that, and they don't have the time. And in a more wealthy family, maybe there's only one parent working, which then allows the other parent to have all this extra time with the child. What Anita found was this lack of parents being involved in their kids' extracurricular activities in the poorer families. And so instead of this intensive kind of scheduling from like one event to the other, in the poorer families, kids wouldn't rely on mom and dad for like entertainment, and they'd play with their siblings or with their neighborhood kids and things like that and go off, and it wouldn't be involved with the parents, so to speak. And this extends to like on a weekend, your parents might take you to like museums and like to cultural things to widen your mind and all that kind of thing. And so the wealthier parenting style was this, she called it concerted cultivation, and the poorer parenting style was this accomplishment of natural growth. And the difference being that the concerted cultivation was a parent actively foster and assesses a child's talents and opinions and sort of talks to them and negotiates with them. Whereas the accomplishment of natural growth path is where a parent sees their responsibility to care for their children, but to let them grow and develop their interests by themselves and not get involved into it. And there was a extract from one of these studies, which was like one of the families called the Brindle family, which was one of the poorer families in the study. And it was quite sad to read, but I'll read to you now. It was like, what Mrs. Brindle doesn't do that is routine for middle-class mothers is view her daughter's interest in singing as a signal to look for other ways to help her develop that interest into a formal talent. Similarly, Mrs. Brindle does not discuss Katie's interest in drama or express regret that she cannot afford to cultivate her daughter's talent. Instead, she frames Katie's skills and interests as a character trait. Singing and acting are part of what makes Katie Katie. So she sees the shows her daughter puts on as cute and a way of her just expressing who she is, rather than someone on the more wealthier side, which might be like, right, let's get acting classes, let's do this, let's go see some plays and things like that. And it was interesting in that extract that it was saying that in this family anyway, this Brindle family, that the mother doesn't regret not being able to do that because she just didn't see it as like an opportunity, so to speak. And I mean, I want to stress as well, and this is what Anita stresses in the study and in this, and what the author stresses in the chapter, is it's not to say that one style is better than the other or anything like that. And it's certainly not morally better. And it goes on to say that the poorer children are often much more better behaved, less whiny, a lot more creative, and had a much more better sense of independence and could be a lot more self-independent with the things they did later on in life. But the biggest difference was the wealthier children grew up with a sense of entitlement and later in life won't wait to be given something, you would ask for it straight up. This whole book got me thinking, like, I'm not ready to have kids. How the hell are you meant to work out how to raise a kid to become successful or whatever? Not to become an outlier or anything, but like, there's so much crap like you've got to think about and like weigh up, and like, how the hell are you meant to do this? Yeah.
Avoid, mate.
Avoid completely.
That's
You're not
my
going to have
theory.
kids. You're not going to have kids.
Well, I'm 24. At least I'll give it another 10 years. So you're saying wealthier families have one-year children, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Explains a lot. Then we hear. Explains a lot.
Yeah, I'm a big complainer. No, but you know, it's just very interesting ideas that I've just not really thought about in terms of looking back and what my upbringing was.
And do you think it was a good one?
Oh, I'm perfectly happy with it. I wish I had more self-confidence that I pursued the tennis thing, but I have a crippling fear of failure that still haunts me to this day with everything I do. So,
and you've started a podcast that's going to have no listeners.
Exactly, failure. I live at home. Failure. Anyway, that was what I'm bringing to the table this week. Make you and everyone out there think about, you know, kids.
Kids. Right.
Make sure you have them at the right time. That's what I take away from it.
Just don't have kids. That answers that one.
Or just don't have kids. Yeah, no. Toby's top tips for 2021.
I'll give a top tip for every podcast, and that is the first one. All right,
anyway,
shall I move on
to you?
So it's going to completely go a different way.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, have a drink of your cocktail, man.
I will. I'm just going to sit back and listen now.
Yeah, you're halfway through it already.
Mate, I was thirsty.
Not going to make it to the end.
Do you know I'm getting a bit more happy and a bit more...
Yeah,
you know.
getting a bit relaxed, yeah. Okay, so what I looked into... Thanks, Tom. I'm trying to... You know, I let you have your bit, mate.
Sorry, yeah, you were very... Yeah, you did let me talk. And I rambled on.
Right, so I looked at the potential...
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt again. I'm so sorry, but I have to. For everyone listening right now, Toby has got... It's a good wad of paper of notes in front of him. So this is some in-depth... I'm going to commend you, Toby. Like, you've really gone in and out. Okay,
no, I've just got a bit of structure, just so I can tell you some facts.
See, I just completely freeballed it, man.
Yeah, that was good.
It did turn out bad, so fair enough. I might go the structured way.
Right. Yeah,
anyway, you know what? I'm so sorry, Tobes.
I'm just going to cut all this out, and it's going to go.
No. Just go.
So I looked at uploading your mind and consciousness. Oh. So looked at kind of what it meant. Yeah, it's quite interesting. Because would it mean that we could, in theory, live forever? And is that kind of the next evolutionary step on the ladder of development? So what I mean by is uploading our minds into a computer is that, you know, your consciousness and intelligence and your memories and what is consciousness? That's like a massive argument already.
Oh, wow.
So I'm not going to go into that. I'm not going to go into that.
Okay. Because let's stick just at the uploading.
What I looked at, no one really has an answer to what is consciousness.
You looked at it. Oh wow, yeah. No.
Yeah,
mate,
we're just like loads of people.
We're just atoms arranged in a specific way that somehow this whole shit works. I don't know.
Wow. This is the thing, is it that? So
I do love this thing because one of my favourite films is Transcendence with Johnny Depp. Everyone go watch it if you have not. And if you haven't heard of it, definitely go watch it. It's great. Have you?
I haven't.
Oh my god, you bring this topic to the table and you haven't even seen that film? Right.
Yeah, okay. So I didn't commit to watching the whole film.
That could have been your research.
That could have been it.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Well, when you say uploading your mind to a computer and things like that, the first thing that jumps out to me is if no one dies, it's going to get pretty overpopulated. So in this sort of scenario that you're putting forward, are we in like a kind of a Matrix thing where we're alive in this computer world, so it takes up no space, and there's just a couple of guys on the outside coding it and sorting it out if anything goes down? Or are we all like in sort of, you know, robots? We're going to get into robots and stuff and we're walking around and that kind of thing.
It can go so many different ways. So the idea is that you could take your whole brain, model it in a computer kind of software or something, put it on this chip, and then it would just be all data on there. And then in theory, with that chip, you could send it at the speed of light to, I don't know, let's say Mars. Okay.
Yeah, this is actually,
So
can I just jump in on this? Because I've just thought of like an amazing point on that, which I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember. It was that guy. It's the AI guy, Sam Harris, I want to say, but I might be wrong. He was talking about AI and like the rise of it and what it might look like for the future. And he was saying, to put it into perspective, one of the biggest things with AI is its rate of improvement and how much better it will get than us very, very quickly, and how much it will just far exceed any kind of intelligence that humans can have biologically. The perfect analogy in terms of the speeds in the connection of our human brain and the speeds in a computer, i.e. what you just said, the speed of light on a circuit, is the same as what we look at when we look at a tree growing. And he was saying that when AI will look at human beings and see trees and think, oh my God, how slow is this? So just think of like all the things that we can do in the lifetime of a tree. So say, 70 years for a tree growing and how much it does in that year. But then think of how much like humans have done in 70 years, from building the plane to then going to space. Like he was saying, you will see that much progression in AI in the shortest amount of time possible, that it would be like a tree growing. Like we will literally just be trees growing to them. And that's when it gets into that weird argument of like, they won't have a need for us. They're the next kind of step.
I think we'll have to have another discussion on AI, because that's a whole other video. That
thing came in and
yeah.
Sorry, continue with your notes. So yeah,
what
side do you want to go into it?
You'll find out if you just stop speaking and let me speak.
I'm so sorry. Am I being a bit?
I'm just going to mute you on Zoom. Just 1 second. No, so what I was saying before is that you could upload your mind on a chip. In theory, you could then just beam it to different planets. So you could beam it to Mars, and there could be a little avatar, and then your brain goes into that avatar, and you could then, have lunch on Mars if you wanted to. And then you could be like, okay, let's go back to the machine. Let's input my brain, send it, let's say, Jupiter, or one of the moons of Jupiter. You could go to all these different places and just have different avatars and these different things, which is quite cool.
It's almost like emailing yourself around
different
bodies.
And because you send the signals at the speed of light, you can travel as far as you want. And you don't experience time, because you're just, that data just frozen there, sent out. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that just yet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we took a bit of a curveball.
3 pages worth of notes we've got to get through here.
Yeah, because that's near the end. That's near the end.
Oh, right, okay.
So basically, to make this work, it requires 3 assumptions. One is that your mind and your consciousness is just in the structure and biochemistry of how the brain works. So if you could take the brain and then copy it all cell for cell, you would have the exact same life and that you'd have, and that consciousness is built into just that structure and frame. That's called physicalism. But you didn't know that? Drop.
No, this is new. Like, I'm basically just a sci-fi buff. I just watch films on this stuff. I don't know the technicalities.
The second assumption is that we will actually get to the point where we understand the brain to that level of detail. And
I was going to say, like, when you were looking at this stuff, what is a memory? Like, what group of atoms is making that memory that I can remember? Oh, I had that for dinner last night. Like, how the fuck does that work?
Well, that's it. We don't know. And
is that what that physicalism one you were talking about is? You would like recreate atom for atom.
Well, yeah. If you did that,
would then have the same memory.
Yeah, pretty much. So, in my head, that would have to make sense, because if you copy something the exact, all them arrangements of themselves somehow create them memories. I don't know. No one knows how it works yet.
Oh, okay.
But that's the second one.
Are people working on it though? I hope they are.
Yeah, there's loads of studies into it. And then the third is the computability of it. Can you actually program a brain like that? So like it's zero. I can just see you really struggling to drink your cocktail.
I took make a bit too much gulp, and that was a lot of vodka in that bit. Sorry.
Yeah, whether it can actually be programmed. So is the mind as simple as just ones and zeros? Does it work like that?
That's an interesting concept.
So to give you some kind of context of how complicated the brain is, it is the most complicated thing that we've ever known in the universe. So I'll give you some numbers.
Yeah, no.
So they're estimated.
As both of us are engineers, we love numbers.
Yeah. Estimated 100 billion neurons in the brain. So that's obviously a lot. With all them neurons, there's 1 million billion connections. Okay.
That's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is a crazy thing.
And they're sending 1,000 signals a second. So from all that, there's basically 1 quadrillion events happening in your brain every second of your waking life. And
but the thing I remember was that number is limited by the speed of biochemical reactions, like the speed that a electrical impulse can travel along the neuron, and that's just limited by biology. But in a computer, you could speed that up to the power of the speed of light, to the speed that is the speed of light, and then it just becomes.
Well, you'd think that, but 1 quadrillion events every second. That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And then with each of them, you've got then hormones that play a massive role in moods and things. I know you're quite a hormonal boy, so.
What was that shot for? He didn't have to take that shot then. Right, it's not going to be in episode 2 because we're no longer mates.
Yeah, so like that plays a huge role. Then other parts of the body affects your brain, spinal cord and things like that. So it's so unbelievably complicated that, where will we ever be smart enough to understand?
Do you know where we are at the moment in terms of understanding? Like, I feel like we know where like emotions kind of are centered. Like, don't they do that
like
thing
places?
Yeah, and it like lights up that area and things like that.
Yeah. So we understand like what parts of the brain are responsible for different things. So like the memory is, I think, your front. Like near the front of your brain. I don't know all the different
lobe.
Yeah, I don't know all the different names. I'm not even going to try.
It's just obviously not done a lot of research then for this topic.
No, I'm not going to bother doing that. But yeah, so it is quite complicated. But
don't say that on the podcast in future.
What, you want me to memorise all the different parts of the brain? You
but don't say, I'm not bothered. I'm not going to bother with that.
I'm not.
You want to give off a sense that you actually care about this thing, man.
But yeah, I've got 3 sheets of information here. That's enough. For just the one listener that we get, that's all they need.
To be fair, we're overloading them with thought experiments right now.
Yeah. So
shout out to that one listener. We love you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Mum.
Oh shit! No, we'll get 2 then. Thanks, Mum. Thanks to my mum. Thanks to Toby's mum.
So what we basically can do is you take a brain and then you cut the brain into tiny slices and then you scan each of them with an electron microscope, and then you could literally create a map of kind of where all the cells go and things like that. The technology is not really there to scan at that detail for the human brain, but in 2019 they did it for a centimeter cube, right? So literally think of a centimeter, and then
everyone knows
3D of a mouse brain. So they did that, and basically in that 1 centimeter cubed, it had 100,000 neutrons, 1 billion synapses, and 4 kilometers of nerve.
Wait, neutrons or neurons?
Neurons, sorry.
Oh right, yeah. Okay, that makes more sense.
So what they did, they cut up this cube to 25,000 slices.
A centimeter cubed into 25. How's that even something left over?
Yeah, I can't imagine it. But
shit.
And they scanned
I love what people do these days.
They scanned it with 5 electronic microscopes for 5 months continuously. So all these different slices, they just kept going.
For the listeners, my jaw's on the floor at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I'm sure theirs are as well. So
they're loving this. They're loving it. They're loving it.
So what happened 6
there? 6 electron microscopes. Fuck me.
5. But they collected 100 million images. Just it states back the cubic centimeter of mouse brain.
Of a mouse brain. So I imagine that's a little bit less complicated than ours.
Yeah, and then they put it into a computer system. So it took them like 3 months to collate all these images for one. Guess the size of the 3D model.
What is it like? What, a picture? You mean like
they
gigabytes
put these images? Yeah, gigabytes. Don't overshoot because it's embarrassing if you overshoot.
Oh, is it not ridiculous? Isn't it like it's got to be the terabytes? Surely, I'm going to go for like 5 terabytes then.
I'm going to sip my.
Yeah, for that pause he was just drinking.
Yeah, so it's 2,000 terabytes. So, which, to be honest, That's not that bad. It's 2 million gigabytes, but I just converted it to 2,000 terabytes, which I think is right. I hope it's right.
That's quite insane. Like for people, for like everyday kind of thing, you know, your laptop might come with 1 terabyte of memory these days.
Yeah. So my computer's got 1 terabyte.
And we've got what? We've got 2,000 terabytes. Did you say
2,000? Right, and that's just a centimeter cubed
of a mouse brain.
Of a mouse brain. So obviously not as complicated as a human.
No.
So they reckon if you were to do this with a human brain, you'd probably have to do it in a lot more detail, for one, and the actual data capacity that you'd need would be something like a zettabyte. Okay.
What's that? What's a zettabyte? To be honest, my knowledge goes into tera and then I stop.
To be honest, I just saw zettabyte. I didn't bother looking at how many zeros it was.
Oh, no. Did you not think that question might come up?
No, but basically, it's the capacity that we have on the whole Earth for just one brain. For just one brain. Tell me how many zeros it is.
I am doing it right now. Yeah. Well, just before I say this, it's a fucking lot. Let's put it that way. Just before I say this number, right? Because I don't know if I can at the moment. To be fair, if you think back to 1960s or something, when were computers invented? I can't remember. But the early IBM kind of computer things. Oh, there you go. The early IBM things, they had less than a megabyte, didn't they? Really?
Yeah. To be fair, when you think of how far technology's come,
you think we're up to terabytes now, and we can get hundreds of terabytes in a computer when you really spend some money.
Yeah.
I'm sure at some point we will be able to get to this zettabyte. Anyway, a zettabyte is 10 to the 21 zeros, so it's a billion terabytes.
Billion terabytes, Jesus.
A billion terabytes. So from a mouse brain to a human brain, they've gone from 2,000 terabytes to a billion terabytes.
Yeah, but that's only a cubic centimeter of mouse brain.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, wait, did you say the whole human brain would have been?
Yeah, this is the whole human brain.
Oh, okay. So, right.
But still, that's...
To be honest, though, a mouse brain must be
amount.
a mouse brain must be like a centimeter cubed anyway. They're tiny.
Yeah, that's a good point. That is probably their brain.
A billion terabytes, that's a lot. I'll give you that. Yeah. That's a lot.
But to be honest, I don't think that is the restriction on it, because, as you said, the technology could, in 50 years' time.
Yeah, it's got to catch up to that.
You can't imagine what it's going to be like anyway. So,
I think of the size that a megabyte was back then compared to the size of a megabyte now. I've seen that there's that famous picture where it shows 25 megabytes and then it shows 25 terabytes today, and it's the same size. Or it's even smaller, actually, 'cause it's the size of a room, isn't it, back then?
It's like a PS1. Do you remember the PS1?
Yeah.
You used to get little memory cards.
Yes. There was 16
and they used to be
weren't they?
No, they used to be 4 megabytes.
Oh, shit.
4 or 8, I think. And there's PS2 as well that had them. And you think, the scale.
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. It's mad. Anyway, continue.
So what I'm saying is that's just a 3D model. Okay. So
I was about to ask, what does this 3D model mean? Is just the picture of it?
Well, yeah, it wouldn't do anything until you start putting in laws and rules of chemical
It was just like a picture,
and,
the makeup of it, right?
Yeah, and to make it dynamic, you've got to put all these different rules in, and then you think the computing power that you need for that much memory to then power that many interactions.
You'd need a billion terabytes of RAM.
Yeah. So at the moment, we don't know. We don't know if it would be possible, because it's definitely not now.
Yeah.
But, well, that assumes that consciousness is just the sum of the brain and the scan.
It's physicalism you're talking about.
Yeah. But we don't know if that's true.
Do you think it is just an exact copy? I can't understand how the copy works, because I understand how a neuron is then made up of atoms, but I can't understand how memory goes into atoms. And it goes into that level. I can't understand how the picture that you see in your eyes translates back into a memory, and then that's a certain setup or a certain arrangement of the atoms that makes that recalls that kind of picture. I can't work out that kind of transition.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't. It's like turning something virtual, the physical interactions of turning something virtual in your head. There must be some physical interactions, but how that works, I don't think anyone knows.
There is a soul. That makes you think there is some sort of pixie dusty kind of thing going on. or like some sort of other level. Like it can't be freaking quarks and muons just spinning around. That means I remember.
Look at you showing your intelligence.
Oh, I just want to drop those.
Hello.
I thought I'd drop that. A-level physics coming in there.
Is it an up quark or a down quark?
It doesn't matter. Well, if it's a sunny day, down. Up, I mean. If it's a bad day, down. I love that we're alive now, basically, and that in the next 50 years, I can't imagine what it's going to be like in 50 years, but I hope a lot's going to happen in the next 50 years so that we're actually alive to see this. Like, I'll be depressed if I was my granddad's age and I'm going to miss it all.
Yeah, but then
even though
how much they saw.
I know. To be fair, he's seen like the invention of the dishwasher and everything. So to be fair, a lot of things have changed. The only reason I say that example is because I was chatting to him. Well, the only reason I brought that up is it's a complete side story, but we'll get back to the AI in a sec. Was because I'm thinking of doing like an interview with him. So I brought like this camera setup and everything. I'm gonna like interview him and get him to tell me his whole life story from like the earliest memory to now. I don't know how old he is. I think he's like 77 or something. Just to like, because I thought it's like so many people die, and then like people remember you and things like that. But like maybe like the grandkids, like the last generation that remember their grandparents and like what they were like. But like I thought it'd be a sick thing to have like them talking to the camera and saying everything of their whole life and whatever. Obviously, it's probably a damn few hours of interviewing, and then you've got that forever.
Yeah, anyway. I think that's quite a nice idea.
But we were getting into. I was talking to him about doing the interview and like setting it up, and like, I think we might start this weekend or next weekend. But he was telling me like, he's like was saying like the craziness of like everything that's happened to him and mobile phones and stuff. So I can't imagine the craziness of our life.
When we're like 70, we're going to be stuck in our ways and hating all this technology.
I know. We're not going to understand it. Anyway, you get back to the AI because I do like this. Is interesting.
Yes. Let's assume that we could do all these things, right? Mm-hmm. This is kind of going on to the next bit of conversation. What would it actually mean? What do you think it would mean for one? I want to know your opinion.
I'm so sorry, I might be dumb, but I don't know what you mean by what does this mean?
What does it mean to people, like humanity? What does it mean to you if you could upload your consciousness?
Well, I've always this is an interesting one. I've always thought there's two ways our future's going, and it's either we invent AI that's better than us.
That's the AI.
Better than us. Yeah, and it gets better than us, and then it replaces us, and then like we like die out or whatever because there's no need for us, and like they make a world which doesn't require biology kind of stuff, or we become symbiotic with them, and I guess that's more along the lines of what we're talking about here, where we become heightened because we take on all the benefits of being a computer over being something that's made up of biology. What does it mean? I don't know. That's a fucking big question. That is to ask.
It's a good question though, because
when
I thought about it, there's quite a few things to it. So it's kind of functional immortality. So you could, in theory, live forever. As long as that copy's backed up somewhere. Your mind will be there. And I touched upon the whole space travel thing. Like, I think
it would make that quite certainly possible.
Well, that's the thing. Like the whole.
Well, to be honest, it wouldn't, because like I still can't think how we're ever going to solve space travel. Because like, what's the nearest star? Alpha Centauri. What? It's like 4 point something. Like, sorry,
I've got a spa down the road.
Oh my god, that was a terrible joke.
Right, we'll cut that bit. So, what's the nearest star? Say it again.
Alpha Centauri.
Right.
I believe it is. I might have got that wrong.
Four light years away, the nearest star.
Four, yeah, in it. So, and that's like, I don't even know if that one has planets or not, but like, even if we could get to that level that you're talking about, where we send ourselves at the speed of light, it's still not fast enough. Like, it's a lot of time. I know we're immortal, so maybe we see it differently, but like,
you got to see it differently, because you could, if you send your data off, you're not going to know that it's taken 4 years. You're just 1 to 0. Yeah. So you'll just go to sleep in one body and wake up in another.
Yeah, but can't we be alive in multiple bodies at the same time if we're doing this copying thing? But then we just become different people because we have different memories and stuff. It doesn't really work. It's like overwriting documents.
That's the thing. It's a living. Your brain's going to be a living file.
This is an interesting one.
So
can I be a Word doc?
That is a terrible one.
That was my attempt at shit humour following your spa thing. People are going to think we're so fucking weird and nerdy.
Mate, I'm cutting out the spa, but anyway. So no,
keep it. We're keeping this all. It's raw, it's good.
So one thing I'd say is files get corrupted sometimes.
Yeah.
So imagine if your like consciousness, if like death, one of the ones or zeros went something wrong with it, you know, you could then be a completely different like person. You could have you might forget loads of different things because that part of the data is missing, and then it throws up that.
Yeah, I have thought about this kind of thing with like if you become a computer and then it messes up like our computers do, but we also mess up, like the biology messes up. Like, not to I'm going to get technical again, A-level biology coming out, but like when you're like transcribing DNA and then they're making the copies of it for future cells and things like that, that's where like the things that go wrong, 99% of the time, it just means there's a dead protein and nothing happens. But that's like what cancer is. It's like, you know, a random A becomes a T or a C becomes a G that it shouldn't, and then it's a cancerous cell. So in the same kind of sense of like a computer becoming corrupt because of a 1 or a 0 changing randomly, we do that now anyway.
Well, yeah, but so I guess if you were to be immortal in a digital world, do you think it would change your outlook on life? Do you think you'd be less scared of doing things like you wouldn't be able to die? Would you take more risks?
Well, yeah, but I also think being humans, there'll be people hired to like, I don't know, somehow put kill codes into people's files to kill them. Like there'll still be like that kind of shit going on. It'll just be the same. It'll be like exactly the same, like except we just have longer to do it all over. So I think like there'll still be kind of death and stuff. But
that's the thing. You've then got the side that humans are just not very nice people sometimes.
Yeah.
So you could have, you know, cyber terrorists that take over your body and make you do things. And
exactly.
Would you live in a body, or would you? Because in theory, you could then just simulate living in a past memory, put yourself in the dinosaur times and like simulate that and just live there. Or would you still live in a human body? You wouldn't have to love. You could just turn on.
I was going to say,
turn it off.
Like, I'm quite a fan of humanity and nature. Like, you know, going for a walk and stuff's really nice, and I feel like that's all going to be ruined if it's all synthetic.
Yeah,
as you say, love and stuff. Like nothing, all that human stuff's gone. I think we'll just have new, not emotions, but we'll have new things to guide us in life.
Well, do you think they would go though, or do you think people just wouldn't care because they've got all these different opportunities that they can then go after? Or do you think people would still care?
Oh, you're really asking some tough questions tonight.
It's interesting. I just thought it was because I think it would change your like perception of what you'd want to do massively.
Oh yeah, because like you could go skydiving every day, or go climb the Himalayas every day, or like go travel in space every single day and things like that. But like, you know, raising a family, what's that gonna be? Having a family,
you wouldn't have to.
Yeah, exactly. So how will there ever be new people? Because you've got to somehow create something that has a base.
Would you need new people? Like one of the things.
This is the thing where like then it's definitely that scenario that I was talking about where the AI replaces biology and you don't need biology anymore.
I did listen to something and it was about it's just passing the baton of evolution. So it's like you know how we've gone from like caveman to like the next step might just be passing it to the digital world where we're living in robots. Is that a bad thing? I guess.
I saw the same thing where it's basically like, you know, you had Neanderthals and then you had Homo sapiens and Neanderthals died off, and then you'll have AI and Homo sapiens will die off. But
wow, if we can upload our brain digitally, we could be alive.
You could live there, yeah, no, it's true.
Would you want to live forever?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah. Because I do sit and think a lot and love progress. Like I love seeing every year that computers can have more RAM. Like just progress is great. Like, you know, but if you think
sad little man.
That was a bit of a sad example. But
2021, I wonder how much RAM we're going to get this year.
No, but like you just see every year shit's getting better and better and better. And I love that you see that. And I love that.
I mean, like imagine if we had 1,000 years of knowing each other. I think I'd be
I'd probably
so
hate
fucking
you.
sick of you.
Yeah, well, we agree on
And
that.
that's just
Yeah.
1,000 years.
Yeah.
Like you'd move apart from so many people.
But it's that idea though of like your whole time perception changes. So when you're immortal, like your 1,000 years will just feel like a second once you get a few thousand in.
But then
I don't know how it all works. I don't know. These are big questions, man. I thought we were gonna have like a chill, informal, relaxed
it's discussion,
podcast
isn't
and
it?
just yeah.
To be fair,
I'm
we've
having
gone
to
on.
use my brain.
We've overran quite considerably. I think maybe this might be.
Oh,
This
I'm
might be the
so
time.
sorry for the one listener out there that we bored you for a whole hour. Yeah, we should. Have you gone through all of it you wanted to talk about?
I've got to the third page. Good. I've got to.
No, I think that's a nice way to end. We'll leave it with the viewers, the one out there.
Thanks, man.
Let you decide. Let you decide. You know. God, that was intense. That was deep.
Yeah, I think I need a little lay down. I finished my.
I'm gonna go have a nap.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a nap. I'm gonna finish this and have a nap.
Did you enjoy your sex on the beach?
It was good. It was very good. I have to say. Yeah, I don't know what we'll see what I bring next week. Anyway, well, thank you for listening, everyone. And we're signing off now. Bye, guys.
See you later.